Welcome to Inside Zede's Sewing Studio. I'm Mallory Donohue.
And I'm Zede Donohue.
And this is the live sewing show with a live studio audience. Yell so they know you're out there. Thank you for being here. Today we're going to talk about making purse straps and also about
cleaning your dirty sewing machine, or we would like you to do clean sewing.
That's right.
Okay?
So let's get started.
All right.
We're going to make your basic purse strap here. You are going to worry about the width of your strap. Make it however long you want. Test it out on your shoulder, maybe when you're making your bag, or follow your pattern instructions. And you want to make the strap 4 times as wide as you want your finished strap to be.
Exactly. So we're going to do, this is basically a 1-inch strap. So I'm going to cut now. This obviously is too short for a real strap, but
Nuh-uh.
well, maybe not for me. I'm pretty short. But
and this is obviously 4 inches.
This is 4 inches wide.
Yes.
So it's 4 times the width of what I want to wind up with. So I'm going to wind up with my 1-inch strap. This is so simple and so nice to do. The first thing I do, this is the right side of my fabric, so I will lay it flat on the board. And I'm going to fold in half lengthwise and match this up.
We'll try to get a close-up of this.
And what you want to do is press this. And when I say press, I put the iron down and I'm putting pressure on it. Your setting should obviously be what is correct for your fabric. This is basically sort of cotton or cotton quilting type fabric. Okay, so I've done this. Basically, I folded it in half.
And so now you've gotten this nice crease line here right across the exact center of the fabric.
The next thing I'm going to do is fold the ends into the crease and press again.
And you're only pressing that edge. Don't move your iron.
Oops.
Don't burn your fingers. Don't move your iron toward the center, otherwise you're going to lose that crease.
You want to keep that crease.
Yeah, you'll relax the fabric and you'll lose it.
And then I'm going to fold this up. Oops, 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 oops. Try and make it as nice as possible.
And make your ends meet, basically,
right
in the middle.
And so now I have this, and I would have a purse strap that we would then top stitch, except this is kind of a light fabric, and I want to cushion it or support it better.
And hold it up and let them see kind of like the,
it's kind of flimsy.
And this is a little bit more stabilized.
That's stiffer. So I've decided to put just a little bit of fleece in mine. A lot of people like an iron-on fleece to do this. So this is basically 1 inch or just scant of an inch. I'm going to put now, if you want to use temporary adhesive or permanent adhesive or whatever you want to position this, I don't seem to have any trouble by just putting it in there.
As long as it's the right width, you really shouldn't have any issue.
And then folding it up.
What if you're going to make several tote bags and you're doing like a really long strap or something, a temporary adhesive might be a good idea. And when I say mini tote bags, like you could make yourself, yards and yards of strap and then cut it up after you've stitched it.
You could do that.
Yeah. I learned
I've done
from
that
my
before.
mom. Okay, so you just refolded.
So what I did is I finished the strap, but Mallory was talking so much. Anyway, I put my little filler in there of fleece, folded it back up.
And I think it's important to do this with your iron. Don't just finger press this.
No,
You'll be unhappy.
It's really nice to have this because we will show you when we stitch this that we use the edge foot, or sometimes called the joining foot, that has a guide on it, and we'll show you how we're going to do that.
And let's get a little iron action here. People might be curious about it.
You want to see my iron and what it does?
I don't think you can
it'll do it on. Yeah, it will.
Oh, actually, that's one of the features of the iron is that it won't fall off. On. Actually, this might be a little bit too much of a slant.
Right.
You can slant it a little bit. This is an Oliso iron, and when you take your hand off,
it pops back up.
And so you don't have to worry about burning your fabric. It doesn't spit, it doesn't leak. We love it. It's been on Fonz and Porter, I think, but it's also been on Inside Zede's Sewing Studio.
It's been on a lot of shows. A lot of people like it. A lot of people who sew a lot like to endorse it.
So now we're going to use our edge stitch foot to,
top stitch each side.
and like Mom said, on the Bernina, it's a number 10 edge stitch foot. On a Baby Lock, it is called your edge joining foot.
The other thing you might want to mention, Mallory, is we're going to sew the open edge first with the edge with that foot, and then the closed edge will be the second edge we'll sew.
That's right.
You also want to use a stitch length of about 4, and that's just what sort of a general guideline for anything that's home dec or craft-like a purse or something like that.
Okay, so I'm going to move my needle over to the left, and I've got my strap to the left, and just start stitching. Don't watch your needle, watch the guide, and just make sure that your fabric is up close to the guide of the foot.
So we're going to you can see this is a little wonky. What will take care of that is a nice press. And you'll have a nice even strap. And you have a nice strap that has a lot of support to it.
If the fabric you're using is like a heavier canvas or, I don't know, a leather or something.
It's just however heavy it is. It doesn't even matter what type of fabric it is. Whatever's heavy and you don't feel you need any extra support, don't put anything in there.
Yeah, there's nothing in here.
This is a heavy duct or canvas. You wouldn't need any support in here. You wouldn't want any. It would get so stiff and so bulky that, you know, it would be uncomfortable. This makes a nice handle by itself.
So that's how you make a purse strap. The question is, if you're just using a lightweight cotton for purse handles, do you need to interface them before you sew your purse straps?
Right. I guess my answer on that would be, it is your own judgment, and I use it a lot, especially if I have this was a pretty fine fabric.
Right.
And it might have to do with how much I think I'm going to use those straps. If I'm putting straps, say, on a makeup kit that I'm just carrying inside my suitcase and I'm not carrying it on my arm, maybe I would just do it like we just did it. If I thought that was going to be over my shoulder repeatedly, I might interface.
Question is, can you use a fusible fleece? Yes, you can. It can make your life a lot easier. On this length of strap, or even maybe twice this length, you're probably not going to have a whole lot of trouble manipulating your strap.
Right.
If you think it's going to make your life easier and you've got fusible fleece around, go for it. Also, when I mentioned the assembly line straps, your fusible fleece might only be, say, 18 inches wide or whatever sort of, package you got. So cut yourself those 1-inch strips, fuse them.
Might be piecing the fuse.
Yeah, it would help
the fleece
you
in there.
if you needed to piece your fleece together. One-sided or double-sided? Good question.
Either one's going to work.
Yes, either one's going to work. But if it's double-sided, then you need to make sure the fleece, do we have another piece of fleece?
Right
No.
here, this one's going to do a better job.
You need to...
Because you're going to have it in, you put it in here, close it up, then press it, so you don't get the gooey on your iron, right? The glue would wind up on your iron.
You cannot have the iron in contact with any side of a double-sided fusible fleece, otherwise you'll get glue on your iron.
So either one's fine.
Yes.
What are you going to talk about, Mallory?
Now I think we're ready to talk about dirty sewing machines.
Talk dirty, Mallory.
That's
dirty.
right. Many of you may have seen the commercial for this video. We have gotten several nasty machines in the shop lately, just full of lint, full of dirt, full of threads, and we are looking to further our mission of educating people about why and how to keep your sewing machine clean. So we've got 2 dirty machines here. I don't know who sewed on them and made them so dirty. Can't imagine.
Well, when you sew, your machine will get full of lint. Basically, when you sew, you're making lint because you're cutting fabric, especially your serger. You're cutting fabric. It's like a lint maker. And the same thing with your regular sewing machine. You're taking a needle, you're going through fibers, so fibers fall off into your sewing machine.
Right, and I don't think people realize how quickly they can accumulate. If you open up your sewing machine, like we'll show you how to do here, there should not be a felt pad under your feed dogs.
No.
We have had people ask to have that replaced. It doesn't belong there, okay?
Most sewing machine dealers service machines. And a certain percentage, a very high percentage of our machines come in, and the only reason they're not sewing properly is they're dirty and or they're not threaded correctly.
Two things
And
that are very avoidable, right?
Very avoidable, and things you can do at home, and things actually a good dealer should show you how to take care of. And if you go to our website, sewhere.com, there is a video up right there that shows you how to thread basically any sewing machine. Talks about, you know, exactly why you do what you do when you're threading a sewing machine. So go there for that reference.
And your machine can stop functioning correctly because it's dirty as
That's
well.
right.
What can lint do? It can obscure sensors on your machine. If your machine has a sensor that says your bobbin thread's running out or your top thread is broken, you know, how many of you guys have that on your sewing machines? If there's a piece of lint in front of there, the sensor will not function correctly. Your machine also has oil in it, obviously, you know, between gears and shafts
Right.
and everything. Having lint in there will suck the oil out of the machine. And we opened up a machine once, and I think we have a picture. Sucked the oil out of her lower shaft, and she needed a completely
She did a new shaft.
new lower shaft in her machine. It was hundreds of dollars worth of work.
And people will talk about, well, I clean my serger, I don't need to bring it in, I clean it myself. That's true, you should be cleaning it, and to your naked eye, it should look clean. But the dealer will open that serger and get that lint out of there, because again, that lint will draw the oils and the greases off of the gears that you need in that serger.
Bring it into your dealer once a year is what we say.
Sure.
Depending on how often you sew. If you're running an alteration store, you might need to bring it in.
Every 3 months sometimes.
Yeah, it's possible, but keeping it clean yourself, but do bring it in once a year for service. So we've got a baby lock serger here, and we've got a Bernina sewing machine. We're gonna try to cover these. All right, so here with this Bernina, or with any sewing machine that you have, one of the first things you want to do is turn the machine off, okay? It'll make the process safer for you. What I'm gonna do first, I'm gonna lower my presser foot, and I'm gonna use this little brush tool, which looks a little useless at first glance, but it has a needle holder on the end, okay? So what I do is I slip this under my needle, turn my needle screw, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty,
There you go.
and just wiggle it out a little bit. This can be super helpful if you have trouble grabbing onto that needle. Actually, I find it even more helpful when you're putting the needle in. Take your presser foot off, of course, because we want to get under there. Take your bobbin case out and your bobbin. On this Bernina, I can actually pop my bobbin case out.
Along with a little
excuse me, my hook.
piece of thread.
Yeah, that's right. You see, we're already
Yeah,
getting
the bobbin case was out.
stuff.
She took out the other
This-
part of the hook.
Yeah, this is the hook. Okay.
All right.
All right. So to take your throat plate off of this Bernina, there's a little bullseye, and I press on it. Comes up. Ta-da!
That's where you will find that little felt pad that is not necessary to sew
That's
with.
right. And we don't have a felt pad here, but what's going to help us in this situation is a Q-tip. You can kind of swirl it around and get this like cotton candy thing of lint, you know, and I find it very satisfying. So we're just going to swab in between our feed dogs. Oop, and
Oop, I saw it.
Yeah, it can fall down into the bottom like you saw in the commercial, okay? And get in around there. And you want
Yep,
to
twirl it.
Yep, twirl it. I think what's important to say here too, we're doing something to get lint out of our sewing machine. We're drawing the lint away and we're seeing it.
You get
look at
lint all
that!
over the place.
Lint all over the place. I might have been sewing some black curtains earlier this week.
Yeah.
And we're swabbing out the bobbin case as well.
Get all of that hook area, because you're going to place a little bit of oil here, and you don't want the oil to go on top of the lint.
That's right. If you are going to oil your machine, you need to clean it first. Otherwise, put your oil in, lint will suck it up. It won't get to the important parts of your sewing machine. What type of oil should you use when you oil your sewing machine?
Right. It should definitely be sewing machine oil. Now, I like an oil with no preservatives in it. We carry an oil here that is a light oil. Bernina packs a heavy oil with their machines. Not all machines take that heavy oil, so you may really, really want to check with your dealer on what kind of oil you're going to use. And if you come in and you ask for oil, we will sell you a light oil. So your dealer knows what oil you need. Don't just go to,
like,
you know,
big box store and buy oil.
And buy oil and think it's all right. It can gum up, you know, the mechanisms there. You need specific oil for that machine. That is a really, really good question. The oil is still okay as long as it's fine and as long as it's smooth. Now, I have a couple of ways that I'll check that oil. I can just put it on my finger, rub my fingers together. If it feels smooth and I don't feel any grit, great. The other way is just to basically put it like on a white piece of paper, like copy paper, or I think I've even used like a plain Post-it type note before. Put it on there and just rub it. If you feel something gritty, get rid of that oil, because those little gritty parts you're putting in your machine
on the metal
on
parts,
metal against metal, and it's going to grind. It really will truly act as a grinding agent in your machine. So that's how you know if your oil gets old. They think it's a mouse.
So get one for your cat.
Yeah, get one.
Are there any more questions about the sewing machine? Yes.
One drop, only one drop. Usually it's somewhere on the hook of your machine if you have an electronic machine, okay? So it's usually down in the bobbin area, and it will show you in your owner's manual, or your dealer will be able to tell you. I don't want to make too blanket of a statement because machines are a little bit different. If you have a mechanical machine, there are probably more places that you should be oiling. Up here, you know, there's a shaft. Down here, there's a shaft and gears in your machine, and those can be oiled if you're not electronic. If you're electronic, your dealer has to do that oiling because there's circuit boards in there. They have to take the circuit boards away from that area and clean it and oil it, and then, you know, replace the circuit boards. You don't want to get oil or moisture, anything on those circuit boards. That's when you have to start replacing circuit boards.
Also, after you oil, run a couple test pieces through your sewing machine, because you will possibly get some oil coming back up.
It's probably not a good idea to run your, you know, antique quilt under it, or your grandmother's, you know, antique wedding dress under a freshly oiled machine, because the oil may come up on the thread. The question was from one of our quilters, and she says she gets a lot of lint up on the needle shaft, which not only a quilter does, everybody does. And you can see some lint on here right now. Go ahead and clean it off just like this.
Just with your cotton swab, like normal?
If you think that's dry and you might want to oil that, put a drop of oil on your finger or on a little piece of cotton fabric or something, and just oil this shaft. And that's not a bad idea at all.
And then you can run it through just by turning your hand wheel with your hand. And so clean it and then oil it, which is a good sort of sequence to remember.
Clean, oil, and then run it. What we do use is a soft cloth. We will spray a little bit of window cleaner, and I mean a little bit, on the cloth, okay? Or even kind of a multi-purpose cleaner. It can't have anything in it that is a petroleum product that would dissolve or have problems with the plastic. And usually on the bottle it will say whether it's appropriate for plastic or not, okay? But spray it on the soft cloth and then wipe your machine down. And again, you can dust it first, but yeah, I wipe my machine down all the time.
Another product that you wouldn't use in your machine ever is canned air. It used to be highly recommended to use this product in your sewing machine.
Used to be in the owner's manual, so if you have an old owner's manual, I don't know how far back.
Or even older sewing books,
Or older sewing, and it says use canned air, which we're talking about the same thing they used to tell you to use on your computer keyboards. Or don't use it. Try and stay away from it. We used it at one time, but it has moisture in it, and it also draws moisture to the machine because it makes the machine cold, and condensation will go to those metal parts. If you have a damp machine, you've got the possibility of some sort of erosion or rust that can happen in there.
What we're gonna do on our serger here, this is great. This is the Enlightened serger.
And it's nice because it opens
From
up
Baby
here.
Lock. Yes, that's one of the features I love about the Enlighten is this opening side panel. Look at all those awesome parts you get to see. And that squeaky noise it makes when you turn it. And what we're going to do is we are going to, once again, follow the principle of taking things out of your machine and not putting more things in. So what we're going to use here is a vacuum attachment adapter kit. It's great to have for your sewing machines. And like Mom said, they used to tell you to use the canned air in your computer. I know a lot of people who use these on their computers. It's a whoop, and you got to put it together right.
Yeah, most of them come with a straight extension or this one has a little 45-degree angle to it. And this is not a tiny vacuum. It's tiny vacuum attachments. We have this attached to a full-size shop vac. So we're not getting little suction from a little vacuum cleaner. We're getting a lot of suction from a big vacuum cleaner.
What we're gonna do is brush and suck
at the same time.
So watch this.
You want to get in here? And
And that's how you clean out a serger. The question is, do you have to oil your serger?
Manufacturer recommends that you do not oil your serger and that you let your dealer do that.
Also, do bring the serger in to get it cleaned and oiled. We had someone come to serger class who left their machine in a closet for like 5 years, and guess what? Wouldn't move.
It was totally frozen and
it was
corroded.
full of dust and ladybugs. I think maybe one of the worst things you can do to your serger is ignore it, not use it, not get it serviced. Make sure you do that. Keeping it moving. It's just like a car.
Anything that's mechanical that does not get moved, does not get the oil redistributed on it over and over again, the oil or the grease that's lubricating it, gravity takes it off of those gears or those moving parts, and basically it's no longer oiled or lubed again. So it needs to be moved around.
Question, do we make house calls? No.
How much are you willing to pay?
How much are you willing to pay?
That's why we're making the video.
That's right. This is another reason to buy from a dealer, okay? We treat you like you're in our home, okay? You bring in your machine, we show you how to use it,
how to maintain it at home.
We take care of it for you.
The other thing is you want a dealer who has in-house service, which means it stays on the property in the shop. There is a possibility that there are places out there that say we service sewing machines, but someone's picking them up and taking them to another location. You may never get to talk to that serviceman if you think you need to. There may be poor communication as to what was actually done to your sewing machine. Now, when we service the machine, you actually get a little report card back as what happened to your machine, what you thought was wrong with your machine, what we did to it, what we did to correct it, and that all stays in our system. And so we have all those records on your machine.
Also, what you get back with your machine generally, and you should ask for if you aren't receiving, is a stitch out.
That's right.
You know, we give a little sample, so if someone said my zigzag mechanism isn't working, we show them we got the zigzag mechanism to work, or someone's having trouble with the rolled edge on their serger, you should get a few stitches. You should see that your machine's sewed well for the tech afterwards. Right. The question is, how often should we clean our equipment?
All the time.
Every time you walk past it.
I mean, every time you use it, before or after every project. Usually I would clean my machine after each major project, because then when I came to sit down to it, it was already nice for me. Now, that's in all ideal cases. Now, if I just hemmed one pair of jeans, I might not clean my sewing machine, okay?
And when we say clean as well, we don't mean perhaps take the whole thing apart and clean it and oil it and everything. You know, just if you see a piece of lint, get it out of there.
Oh, yeah, that's true, too. I just sit down, I look in it, And if it looks dirty, I clean it.
That's right. Just,
I mean,
just brush it out a
I
little
pop
bit.
my throat plate off just all the time, and look, if I'm getting a lousy stitch, I clean it.
Well, and what we call our basic service here at Zede's is a COA, Clean, Oil, and Adjust. This will take care of almost all the problems that we see in the store. Lousy stitch, bad tension, cleaning, so taking the machine apart, getting all the dirt out.
Right.
Oiling, putting oil in, those two things you can mostly do yourself. Adjusting is something our tech has to do.
And that's your needle.
He will do all sorts of things.
Your needle clearance, things like
Your
that.
hook needle clearance. He will even adjust the height of your feed dogs.
Right.
Okay.
And or your presser foot.
And
sometimes.
yes, or your presser foot. These things get out of whack as you sew, and if you sew to the point where they're like really out of whack, you're gonna hurt your machine. That's why you bring it in for service. All right. Well, thanks for coming inside Zede's, and don't keep a dirty machine. Thank you all
keep
for
your
coming.
sewing clean.
Yes. Don't sew like a dirty person. Inside Zede's Sewing Studio is filmed in front of a live studio audience at Parkgate Center in Columbia, Missouri.